Hello everyone, this is One Level Down by Mary G. Thompson, and this is probably going to make my top 10 list for this year, not only because of its own content, but it does have a very thought-provoking nature to it, and I will get to that. So this group of people have left the Earth solar system behind. They have settled upon a new world, but that new world turned out to be a little too hostile for them. A lot of people died, in fact. And so the remainder is uploaded into a simulation. Unknown to the populace, this one fellow who goes by the name of Daddy, he has something in his contract that says that gives him power there. He can delete people. He can't alter the physics of the world, so weather and things like that happen, but he can delete you from existence. And under his direct control is Ella, who is a 58-year-old woman trapped in the simulated body of a 5-year-old. And even though he knows that she is that old, he makes her play the role. She has no choice. She is in fear of him. You don't actually see him doing the stuff in the current timeline. He does delete someone in history. So he has displayed that power. He has hit and or beaten Ella for not playing her role as a 5-year-old. So her entire facade is just to sit there and pretend to be a little girl, even though he knows how old she really is. It's just that messed up a situation. And what the book does really good is you feel her tension whenever she's in his presence, that she has to play this role. She is afraid of him, and it comes through in the writing. It's very good that way. So in the, we have what are actual, well, formerly, flesh and blood people, but they're in a simulation, but they are conscious entities. They are individuals. And so this, obviously is tyranny at its worst. And so the idea here becomes, where do you draw the lines? Where do they blur? And for example, we have this collection of short stories called Restricted Fantasies. I think I did a video on this. And there is this virtual reality police guy who goes into this one guy's own personal virtual world, and it is a fascist state. Everybody's in fear of him. There are soldiers who watch over the people. But they're not real, they're just programs in his world. And so, fine, he can do that. The problem comes in when apparently he kidnapped his children, and they're in that virtual reality, and since they are conscious beings, he has to go in and take care of business. And so there is a line there. We watch violent movies. We're good with that. But the sexual assault stuff, bad. We play video games and kill things. You can play villains in video games. I played Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. And most of the times that I played through as a light side Jedi, but you can make the decision to turn to the dark side in those. And though it's interesting to do, in fact, there's one particularly evil act where you mind control this Wookiee to choke this young girl to death. They were lifelong companions. And it's this epic, dark, evil moment. It's like, oh, Christ. But otherwise, you just kind of run around being a jerk, and I didn't ever think it was that much fun. But I, kill people left and right in these games. But for example, again, you don't see people doing, I don't know that if there are any video games out there that do that. I'm sure in the pornographic world there's something that does that, where you engage in something approaching sexual assault. I mean, in the real world, people involve sexual practices involving safe words. But when you get into an immersive VR, where are we going to draw those lines? I mean, if someone goes into a VR and they start shooting things up, war games, you're playing a sniper, you just felt like, I think I'm going to a random shooting spree down the road here, and it's just nothing but programs that you're doing this to, fine. However, I wonder if you find out some dude's going in and he's made his own sexual assault world, what do you what are you going to think of such an individual? And so we draw these lines at consciousness versus not conscious, but even if unconscious, if someone's doing that in particular, our judgments are going to be passed upon that person. Everyone, I haven't heard much about it recently, but you have things like realistic sex dolls. I can't remember what they're called. Well, what if we get to a point where we can make robotic partners that are realistic enough, but not conscious, that they could pass for human, at least, you know, without a deep examination. And we find out this one dude likes to go home and beat up his female robot. It's maybe not real, but you're not hurting anything for real. But to see that someone's going to do that, I don't get it. I have to poke my phone here. It gave me I don't know what it's gonna do there. My low battery. So we have to draw these lines, but at the same time, even if you're not hurting something, people can pass judgment, and they will if up to something particularly ridiculous. And so in here, of course, it does go over the line, and you have a real dictator over real people, and they're waiting on, in the blurb, a technician who may come, and they may be able to escape. What goes on through the book, you know, I was quite happy with this particular surprise. There is I don't know if it counts as a twist, but it's definitely a surprise. There's actually a portion of this where I was getting a little bit confused, because you have your virtual reality, you have the real world, but someone introduces what is essentially a simulation theory, that our universe is a simulation. And when you can download one way and then upload back another way, you might be able to get attributes brought into the real world that you did not have before, and become superhuman in some way. And in this going back and forth, there's this one, I won't give away what it is, because I don't want to talk too much about it. It's just that I was confused. I'm like, if they could do this when getting out, but somehow wake up back in, but they needed a body to be connected to, and something didn't jive. But as soon as I read further along, it's like, oh, now I get what happened. And it was an extraordinarily great moment that I highly recommend people read. It's a very good book. Enjoyed it. Again, going to be in the top 10. I noticed something on the cover here. It's one of the, when you get like a little quick review, and it says a simulation scenario that digs deeper than the Matrix movies ever did, by author Peter Watts, author of The Freeze Frame Revolution. I thought, well, I read some Peter Watts, and let me look up what this is. And I found out that, like, this Freeze Frame Revolution is apparently a novel, but it's in a series of short stories that preceded it. And there isn't a collected version. And immediately I'm like, oh, I want to get this. So now I have on the way a short story collection. One of the stories is in there that he wrote for the Sunflower Cycle. One is a magazine, which just had the short story in it, called Clark's World. Got that on the way. And of course, I have the Freeze Frame Revolution on the way. One of the stories was in a book I didn't even know, by Peter Watts. It's a short story collection called Beyond the Reef, and it's in here. And so when I get it all together, I will read through this again. I read this a long time ago. I don't remember anything about this at all, other than a very positive feeling about it. I remember it being a very good read, but I don't remember anything about it. So the idea is I get all the stories together, read them through, and then do a video. And then after that, I might just read this book and review the stories that they're in. But that is not what's coming next. What's coming next, by Claire North, Slow Gods. I have been waiting to get my hands on this one. My name is, I had a hard time when I read this the first time. My name is Maukana Na VN Nays, V-D Nays, Benays. I am a very poor copy of myself. Out there in deep space in the pilot's chair, I died. When I was reborn as something not quite human, I vowed to become the scourge of the world that had wronged me.
Brilliantly imagined and fiercely intelligent, Slow Gods is the incredible space opera debut from Claire North, winner of the World Fantasy Award and John W. Campbell Memorial Award, and one of the most original voices in speculative fiction. So that is what is coming up next. Getting close to the end of the year, so hopefully I get through all of this before then and do my videos. That's it. See you next week for Soul Gods. And that's a pretty damn good book. Thank you. Bye-bye.